So we have with us Anthony Marchitello. He is the co-writer and co-director. And we have Corbett Redford, our producer, director, and co-writer. And let's give them another round of applause. So we have a couple microphones.
We also have one of our camera people back there, Melissa. If everyone wants to give her a round of
Shout
applause.
out.
She was awesome. And story editor.
So I just have one quick question, and then I know people in the audience do too. Where can I get this soundtrack?
First thing I want to say is, for anybody that might have been pained by 14 of the cuts to black in this film, in the final cut that's coming out in a DVD, they're not there, so don't worry. Soundtrack, I'm told June 1st, an LP, a double LP, is coming out on 1234 Go Records out of Oakland. It features 31 tracks of the bands you saw in this film. Also, a Blu-ray DVD combo pack is coming out on the same day.
Yeah. All right. Do we have audience questions? Raise your hand. Jack will find you.
I heard it was longer. How much got cut out? Will the DVD be longer than that?
There's Hi Tuck. I love you. It was 5 hours when we first made it, and we're condensing 40 years of history, so there was a certain point where we had to decide whether or not we were going to do a series or a film. Our hearts were set on a film, and I think about 30 minutes of that many hours is coming out on the Blu-ray, and then a lot of the other stuff will just be released online because we don't want to put history in a box, you know? This is people's history, you know? So funny thing for me was when we had a 5-hour cut, when you're condensing 40 years of history, everything is sacred. Everything is beautiful at that point, right? 5 hours. And so story editors like Melissa or Anthony would come in, and I didn't want to part with anything. This is an hour and 37 minutes, right? So there was a certain point, like, what note are you going to take out, right? And I got to do the stomping babies thing. I got to talk about it, because I was a new dad when this was all being made, and Anthony would come into the editing room, and he's like, all right, what babies are we going to stomp today? Meaning that what beloved, wonderful, sacred story is going to go in the garbage today? You know, so that was our metaphor. It was hard. It was hard to do. It was heart-wrenching, actually.
I have nothing to add to that. It was really long.
Back here.
Hey, great film. I've been trying to see it for a while. I'm actually in the process of writing a thesis at Berkeley about Primus. And so I've been trying to get to one of the viewings for a long time, but it finally worked out tonight. So one of the things I wanted to ask you, especially because I'm writing a thing about Primus, is the idea of Bay Area punk rock being this less genrefied type of environment, whereas I think DC scene, LA scene have like more particular sounds. It was funny to hear Billy Joe talk about the drumming style. It's like an East Bay style, but I've always looked at Bay Area punk rock as more of like an artistic side of punk rock, and I just want to know what your thoughts were on that. And then you guys were saying there's a Blu-ray version coming out in the summer sometime?
So your first question, I think this is the Bay Area, and not to be exceptionalist about it, everything's here, you know? So music is just like, it's music. What I think, East Bay punk, I think there's a sense of humor there. There's an encouragement that anybody can play, you know? And I think that that was really an approachable thing for me. But yeah, bands like, you have thrash and funk and hardcore, and I mean, there was a certain point where all these bands were playing together, and we really wanted to show that. Larry Lalonde from Primus and Possessed, the metal band, was also in Corrupted Morals, which was a punk band out of El Sobrante that Billy Joe joined. So actually, Billy Joe from Green Day and Larry Lalonde from Primus were in the same band for a while. You know, I can't really explain. Maybe you. Yeah.
What I've found, the thing that makes East Bay punk so unique, and I'm not kidding when I say this, I think it's the amount of LSD that these people took, and I mean, it was a common thread through all of these conversations we had. We sort of moved away from that in our story, but these punks, unlike DC punks or LA punks or New York punks, were heavily influenced by psychedelic drugs. And that's what I truly think that has a lot to do with the sort of kaleidoscope of sound that you hear from these individual bands.
And this is, again, you know, we have a rich musical history here. I mean, Credence, who else have you got? You got Primus, LSD, right? Green Day, you know, all these different bands that come from this little section, you know, Rancid, Up Ivy, you know, it's, I love where we're from, so. Oh, and the other thing, June 1st is when the Blu-ray is coming out. I think that was your other question. Anyone? Bueller?
Right up front here.
Like an amazing film, and I just appreciated how it expressed the sense of community that comes from like any music genre really, and just like a sense of belonging that everyone can relate to. And I just wanted to ask, like, what set this topic apart from everything else, like, for a film? And was there any point when you thought it wouldn't work out and like it was either too broad or too narrow? And how do you move past that?
I mean, for me, it was just, the film is about needing a place to belong. If you see the beginning is the birth of punk in the Bay Area, and then all these kids get inspired by it, and then they can't go play at the clubs because they're not old enough, you know, or they don't have transportation there. So then you see this need, you know, you see all these bands start popping up. And then when they come together, and they come together under the umbrella of no racism, no sexism, no homophobia. I mean, those are rules, but it didn't always happen. You know, it wasn't completely peachy, you know. But the work, people did the work to do it. I think something special comes out of that. And you get a lot of creativity and a lot of cross-creativity, you know. 40 years, I mean, there's so many bands in this film. Yeah, there was many moments where we had a 5-hour cut, you know, where we didn't know if we were going to make something that made the sense that we wanted to make, I guess, you know. And still, you know, you get more of it when you watch it twice, I think. It's a long movie, you know. But yeah, I think it's about community, and it's about finding a place to belong, and scary making a movie. You never, if you finish it, then you win, even if it's bad. So that's what I think.
I think you've won.
Any other questions? Anybody else have questions?
We have questions? All right, well, as was mentioned by Peter at the beginning, Anthony was with KALB and helped launch the first Albany Film Fest. Corbett was the host that first year, and tonight we've set the record for the biggest audience ever at the Albany Film Fest. So thank you all.
Thank you very much, Albany.